Well, here we are, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Gather around, story time. Gather around the fireplace. I have a woeful tale to tell. If I had told you 5 or 6 years ago that Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker, is now the worst reviewed Star Wars movie ever, would you have believed it? Well, if I were a betting man, I would not have bet money on that. Yet, here we are. That is the case. It is now the worst reviewed movie of all the Star Wars of the entire franchise. The Rise of Skywalker. Oh man, if I would have told you 5 years ago that you're going to have in one movie Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Leia, Lando Calrissian, Chewbacca, C-3PO, R2-D2, Palpatine. If you had been told that 5 years ago, 6 years ago, whatever it is now, and not had any knowledge of what was coming, you would have thought this movie is going to make the most money of all time. This is going to break every record. I can't even imagine how much money this is going to make. This is going to blow the lid off of Avengers and Avatar. It's going to sink the money that the Titanic made. My goodness, this is going to be the biggest blockbuster of all blockbusters. That's what I would have thought. And yet here we are. Forbes.com says that it's now the worst reviewed Star Wars movie ever. How is that possible? I wondered if this would end up actually happening with so many reviews already in, but it finally did. I have been tracking the Rotten Tomatoes score of Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker ever since it debuted below expectations, and surprisingly planted itself between The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones in terms of overall score. As the weeks pressed on and more reviews came in, it slipped down even further and ended up tied with The Phantom Menace as the worst reviewed Star Wars movie film at 53% Rotten Tomatoes score. Now just a couple more reviews have sent it over the edge, and at a 52%, it is now the worst reviewed Star Wars movie in history, including all 3 trilogies and the 2 sub-films. That would be Rogue One and Solo, a Star Wars, a Solo Lost Money story. Here is the final list, which may be done changing at last. Okay, Empire Strikes Back, 94%. Yes, my favorite of all the Star Wars films. A New Hope, 93%. Force Awakens, 93%. Last Jedi, well, that's a contentious issue, 91%. But, I don't know about the whole what happened there with the... so we get rid of that. Yes, Rogue One, 83%. Return of the Jedi, 82%. That's, maybe a little low. Revenge of the Sith, 80%. That's the best one of the prequels. I definitely felt the most like the originals, and I liked it. Solo, 70%. Yeah. Attack of the Clones, 65%. Phantom Menace, 53%. And Rise of Skywalker, underneath Jar Jar Binks. Jar Jar is stepping over the Rise of Skywalker score now. He's stomping down on the score of Rise of Skywalker. That is something. Would you have believed that 5 years ago? Woo! Woo is right. I would not have believed that. Again, this is just the critics. The audience score for the films have gone up by 1% and is wildly different from the critics' scores at an 86%. Which is very questionable as well. If you want to see more information on that, I recommend going to John Talk's channel. He's done a great breakdown on that 86% on the audience score for this movie. Very questionable. Some of the reviews, they all sound the same. If you look, phenomenal finale. Fantastic ending. Couldn't have expected more from the finale of the saga. A lot of them just sound the same, and a lot of the accounts seem to be first accounts. They haven't ever reviewed any movie before, and they all just had to open up accounts to review this movie, which is the worst reviewed by critics. So very questionable. But yeah, head over to John Talks. You can scroll through his videos. He's done some good research on that 86% score, kind of breaking that down and showing you the I don't know if you call it conspiracy theory, but perhaps you would. It would be interesting. Okay, it will still make a ton of money, of course, but it's not the ultra smash you might imagine for the last film in a series like this would be. Yes, I would have imagined this should have been the most biggest blockbuster. Yeah, I like that. Like I've said in other articles like this before, I don't think this placement is deserved, as in my mind, there's no way you can rate Rise of Skywalker below the prequel trilogy with a straight face. I'm rating. I'd rather watch Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. You know why? Because at least Anakin is true to the character of Anakin. Sure, he's a little whiny, but hey, he was a preteen that was in and out of love and fallen to the dark side. So, wasn't the best version of Anakin. I like the Clone Wars version myself, but Obi-Wan sells the film for me, and Palpatine is at least explained in that movie. He doesn't just pop up out of nowhere being half dead. He's got a storyline that makes sense. And Qui-Gon and Darth Maul and the lightsabers battles and Christopher Lee. Plenty to like about those films. Unlike this, the problem with The Rise of Skywalker is it ruins the entire saga. It destroys everything. The canon, the mythology, Rey's now the chosen one. It destroys everything, and it doesn't make sense. How's Palpatine back? Why? None of it makes sense. I say with a straight face, Rise of Skywalker is worse. It does more damage. I have liked the film a little bit less the further I've gotten away from it, and now I can kind of now I'm kind of shaky on my earlier statement that it was my favorite out of the new trilogy. But fundamentally, I think the critics are off base here to a certain degree. What does seem to be clear is that Disney is wise to take a break from from constant Star Wars films for a little while, lest they fully exhaust fans. Disney Plus, with experimental shows like The Mandalorian, Obi-Wan, and Cassian Andor. Obi-Wan, what's going on? Is it, there's all these reports saying behind the scenes things aren't going well. We had the false rumor it was canceled, but then other sources said it's not canceled, but it could be. It's being delayed. There's arguments. I don't know. And then Disney says it's fine. Who knows what's going on with that right now? Just seems like more messiness coming out of Disney. Whatever happens next, it may be that we're out of the Skywalker saga, so fans and critics can no longer lament what has or hasn't happened to their favorite iconic heroes and villains. The next movies are reportedly set several hundred years before the events of the big 9 films. This is probably the legacy of Rise of Skywalker. The movie that critics hated, fans thought was pretty okay, but ultimately it was somewhat messy. A messy end to 9-film series. For a variety of reasons, rest in peace, Skywalker, Solos, Vaders, and Palpatines. But do you think we're really done with them? Do you think they really aren't going to resurrect? I mean, they just resurrected Palpatine, my goodness. So why wouldn't they resurrect Solo Skywalker later? And now we have Rey living on as a Skywalker. So what the heck's that about? I really don't think with this, what seemingly could be a cash cow, if they did it right, that they would really let this go to rest. And can they rest in peace? I mean, Luke and Leia's lightsabers were buried in Tatooine, a place that Luke wanted to get away from and that Leia was a slave at. So, is that a peaceful rest? Well, you tell me. That's what I'll say. You tell me. All right, well, that's the article. The worst reviewed movie of all the Star Wars films. That's just for the last. This sums up the whole saga, and boy, they blew it with everything they had, all the pieces they had to work with, and they just couldn't get it right. They just couldn't get a story right. It just goes to show that the people in charge don't know what they're doing with Star Wars. They just don't know what they're doing with Star Wars. You have the biggest franchise, the most iconic characters, and they're all back in a film, and you can't even get them together in a scene. What are you doing running Star Wars? Just walk out now, walk out the door. You still have time. My goodness, you've already run it into the ground. Is there anything salvageable left? Well, we'll see. I mean, I guess Disney Plus with Mandalorian at least is hopeful that it continues strong. Obi-Wan, who knows what's going on with that? And Cassian Andor, I don't know. Does anyone really care about that? Maybe. I guess they could do it right in a cool way, but I'm not interested in that as much. Anyway, okay, that's the video. You guys tell me what you think of this. It's shocking. Worst reviewed movie ever for Star Wars. What kind of world? Where are we? What universe? What reality are we living in? It's not the one I grew up in, where Star Wars was number one. I'll tell you that. All right. Give that thumbs up to the video, share, like, subscribe to this channel. If you have not, hit that button right there, somewhere down there. It's a little orange, reddish orange button that says subscribe. So please hit that. And thanks for watching. Until next time, lock the doors and hope they don't have blasters.